How you doing, everybody? I'm Tony Gaglione.
I'm Shawn Adams.
And this is Smack Talk.
Today we're on day 12 of the World Cup. First round of the final round, not the first round. The first round of third round games where we decide the groups and who goes through. That means you get 2 games in the morning from one group, 2 games in the afternoon from another group. Take away 2 groups, you get to see who the matchups are. So let's start off today's with the early games. Let's start off with the game that did not matter whatsoever.
The only reason he says it doesn't matter whatsoever is because I called the exact scoreline.
No, it doesn't matter because both teams were eliminated. So they just
No, it doesn't matter whatsoever. Yeah, Spain won 3-0.
Like Tony called.
Here's something that I saw right away when I was looking at the stats. Why does the best possession team in the world have a 55-45 possession advantage over Australia? Shouldn't they be rocking people out like 70-30 at least? Especially a team like Australia?
I don't know. One thing I saw this morning when I was burning up my phone battery watching the game is that David Villa started. And he scored. And they looked pretty dangerous with David Villa on the field. And it makes me wonder if he'd have played the other games, could they have won those games? Because he has a history of scoring for Spain. He was part of those 6 years that Kaz talked about yesterday of, high-tier football. Makes me wonder, what could have been.
It is what it is. Australia had 4 shots total, 0 on goal, which makes me believe that their entire game plan was to run the ball through Tim Cahill up front. Since there was no Tim Cahill today, they didn't get a shot on goal.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that or no?
It's very possible. It's just, they still had Mike Jedinak. I just think that they probably just were like, whatever.
Screw it.
We lost 2 close games that we could have won.
Yeah.
We're out,
Yeah, at this point, the only noise they could have made was beating Spain, the defending champions, but even that at this point wouldn't have been like the greatest accomplishment in the world.
Not after Spain was already eliminated. Yeah. Spain did have 11 shots, 8 on target, so they're very accurate. Torres scored in the 69th minute on a beautiful through ball by Andres Iniesta. Makes me wonder where that passing was at in the previous games. Torres with a beautiful finish. Makes me wonder where that finishing was at in previous games.
Yeah.
Juan Mata finally got on the field, and he scored. Personally, I don't know why.
These two weren't playing in the beginning?
Yeah, they're not playing in the beginning, but I don't know why your midfield, in my opinion, your midfield going forward into Euros should be Cazorla, Mata, Koke, and Fabregas. 4 midfielders. No center defensive mid. 4 midfielders.
Yeah, and David Villa up front.
David Villa's old. I'd say find a new striker.
Who?
Well, Diego Costa is a Spanish international. Maybe when he gets healthy, he'll be better. But I don't know. Find someone. Because with those 3 serving you the ball, midfielders can be dangerous. Mexico's proved that. So, they need to get their defense younger, too. Another thing, too, is that the game result was not a surprise for me, but it was too little too late for Spain. What good is it to score 3 goals when you scored 1 in the previous 2 matches, and that was a penalty?
Yeah.
Rather disappointing World Cup. Great play today, and it just makes me wonder where that was at. It's got to go back on Del Bosque, the coach. Yeah. He's got to be fired, in my opinion.
You can tell the game didn't mean anything because you got 14 fouls to 9, which is basically nothing.
Yeah.
In a 90-minute game, 90-plus minute. 6-2 in corners in favor of Spain. Offside 6 for Spain. Well, Spain's offsides a lot usually. 1 for Australia. 1 yellow card given out. Or 1 for Spain and 2 for Australia. My bad. Yeah. Let's move on to the game that actually counted.
They actually counted the Group B title decider. Who was going to be first place, who was going to be second place, as these teams have both already advanced, both with 2 previous victories in their previous 2 matches. Netherlands was ahead on goal diff, so a draw would have put them through in first place, but they ended up winning the game 2-0. Game was 0-0 for a long time. Long time. Chile actually had a lot of possession this game. However, Norwich City player Leroy Fer put in a beautiful header. And then Aaron Robin gets his first actual assist of the World Cup, his actual scored assist.
Yeah.
With a beautiful cross in the 90 plus second minute stoppage time to Memphis Depay, who's already scored 2 times as a substitute.
Yeah. One thing for me is
Fur was a substitute as well, so
all
both
right.
substitutes scored.
The possession, 64 to 36 in favor of Chile. Netherlands plays a good counterattack, obviously, but with 64% possession, you would think they would have more than one shot on goal.
One on target. They
On
had
target.
7 shots. Yeah. They had a tough time. I was flipping between this game. That's why I burned my phone battery. I was flipping this game and Spain just because I was trying to keep occupied. This game was 0-0 for a long time, so it kind of got boring. And I had saw that Spain had scored, so I pulled up the highlight of the Villa goal and then started watching that. I wish it was a little bit more entertaining. Chile just couldn't break down the Dutch defense. Netherlands was definitely playing for a draw, hitting on the counterattack. They knew a draw puts them through first place. They definitely sat people back.
And Arjen Robben took over on the counterattack, and he was burning people. So.
The one thing that caught my eye, though, was the 26 fouls. 26 fouls for the Netherlands, 14 for Chile. The fouls reminded me of the Dutch teams of old, where you just go out and kick people. 26 is now the highest of the tournament. They were definitely some bad fouls, some yellow card worthy fouls. Some of them were just professional fouls. There was only one yellow card given to the Netherlands, one to Chile.
Dude, corners 7-2. I mean, when you have 7 corners, you would I would imagine that would be your one shot that was on target. But you would think you would have more with 7 corners.
Well, the thing is that a lot of these corners. This is something that I wanted to bring up previously, but in a lot of these corners, even when the ball's played, it's whistled dead because of a foul on the corner team. So it counts as a corner, but there was no actual service into the box. Guys pushing each other, things like that. Obviously, it's not a push by the defending team because that would be a penalty, which we have not seen many penalties in this World Cup. But I think that'll change when we get to the knockout stages. Netherlands had a tough time keeping the ball in the first half. Okay, they in the second half they made it count. They would break on a counterattack and passes behind, things you hate. They just off.
Yeah.
David Blind, who leads in assists, he definitely had an off game today.
And now after the game, Louis van Gaal was complaining about the referee play. Tell me about that because I didn't see the comment.
He was referring to the standard that the media puts on the players. They grade players and coaches, but yet they don't grade refs, and how he referred to that they had 2 penalty decisions go against them. Both of them were scored, one for Australia, one for Spain, and how those could have disqualified Netherlands had Netherlands not responded with attacking football. And how the refs, he talked about his players, if they have a bad game, he benches them, he chooses somebody else. And he thinks that the refs should also have similar disciplinary action. When they have a bad game, they should be demoted. That there should be, instead of a 4-man officiating crew, it should be a 6-man officiating crew. And then when one has a bad game, he's demoted.
No, I agree with the fact that they should move around refs if they're having bad games, they're not seeing all the fouls. But what do you think this is going to do for Van Gaal and Netherlands in the next round in the knockout stage? Is he going to get some favorable calls, or the refs going to be like, well, he just complained, so they're just going to let stuff go?
Well,
it can go either way.
Yeah. It could be a Jose Mourinho, and they start getting some penalties for them.
Chile, you had them winning the game
2-0.
2-0. I had it ridiculous because I just hated the fact that you picked Chile over the Netherlands, so I had it like 5-0, I think. Chile didn't look like the Chile that I saw in their previous 2 games. What do you think was the off about him? What was so wrong?
I think the same thing is going to happen in the United States and to Portugal. The one less travel day. The time to recover. Netherlands played Australia the day before. Spain and Chile played the next day. I think those things start to come into factor when you only have 3 or 4 days to recover, 3 days to recover before your final game. Good thing that they're already through. They couldn't launch a counterattack because Netherlands was sitting deep, and when they counterattacked, they didn't bring many men forward. So it's hard to counterattack a counterattacking team when that team doesn't push forward, or when they don't keep possession, because the Netherlands had a problem keeping possession. So another big thing was Arturo Vidal didn't have a great game in the midfield, and Alexis Sanchez, he pretty much just hung out wide. He did not drift into the middle at all. Didn't take many. I think he took 2 shots. Neither of them were on target, but they were deep shots. They were Lionel Messi Jermaine Jones-esque, 30 yards deep, trying to
Yeah.
curve them and stuff like that, and he skied them. So
So
I think the game players were just tired, leg tired.
out of this group, the Netherlands is going to advance in first place, Chile in second.
Second, we'll talk
Uh,
about the matchups.
yeah, we'll talk
Yeah.
about the matchups. Australia had their worst World Cup in the history of Australian World Cups, which is only 3, but still. And Spain
I would
came in
say
third.
that's not the case because they could have
No,
won both of the game
points
against
wise it
Chile.
is.
Yeah, points wise it is, but they could have beat Chile, and they definitely were leading against Netherlands.
Yeah, I think they should be proud of the way they played in their first 2 matchups. Like
Yeah.
you said, this one didn't really matter. So
We were like, whatever.
I
No
mean,
Tim Cahill, we're screwed.
I don't know what the lineup looked like, or if they made some changes. Let's just see the young guys that are coming up and things like that. They could have. I don't know. I didn't watch it. I was paying more attention to the Netherlands game, but just like the game that nobody watched in the second one.
Yeah, the second one, Cameroon versus Brazil. My only headline here is no surprise, no one watched. The game finished 4-1 Brazil. At one point, it was 1-1.
Shocking.
Yeah, and then that only lasted for 8 minutes, and then it went 2-1, and then 3-1,
And so on.
4-1. Yeah, Neymar had another brace, which gives him the lead in the golden boot because he now has 4 through 3 games. But we still have other players to play. Robin and Van Persie didn't play today, but they still have 3. Benzema has 3, so we have Suarez has 2. We'll see what these other players do as they go through their third games. But right now, technically, Neymar's in the lead.
Dude, shots on goal. 12 for Cameroon shots total, 1 on goal. No Eto. Seems like that's a problem.
1 on goal was the one that went in.
Obviously. 19 for Brazil, 11 on goal.
11 on goal.
Fouls were even. 19 for Brazil, 14
Which
for
is interesting
Cameroon.
They actually called more fouls on Brazil than they called on Cameroon.
Shocking.
But I think a lot of that has to do with late in the game. You saw Cameroon trying to launch balls forward and just the defender blocking the guy, getting a foul called on Brazil, things like that. Corners were 6-7. Pretty much even. Offsides, Brazil again, higher offsides because that's what they do. They play the back shoulder. Possession was pretty much even, 54% in favor of Brazil, 46% for Cameroon. Considering that Cameroon was playing from behind, that pretty much shows that they couldn't keep the ball as much as they wanted.
No, yeah, because playing from behind, you're launching the ball into the box, hoping something good's gonna happen.
Yeah, there was a 30-minute period where Brazil basically just sat back. They were winning 3-1.
Yeah,
and at that point, at that point it was interesting because we'll talk about this about the next game. But at that point when it was 3-1, Cameroon really couldn't get nothing going. They had 3 yellow cards, none for Brazil. So
yeah, Neymar scored again in the 34th minute. The only goal for Cameroon was in the 26th by Matip.
Yeah, it was a corner.
And Fred and Fernandinho has scored for Brazil,
yeah.
Once in the 49th and then in the 84th minute again.
So that period between the 49th and 84th, Brazil was just sitting back. Cameroon couldn't really do much with the ball. So, again, it was no surprise for me. We'll talk about the final of this group as soon as we get done discussing the important game, Croatia-Mexico, which was
the most important
rather interesting. Game was 0-0 at halftime. It was 10 shots for Croatia, only 3 on target. 11 shots for Mexico, only 4 on target. So it was a rather even game as far as shooting goes. 17 fouls to 11 fouls. Croatia had more fouls, and that was definitely evident. We'll talk about what happened in here in a second. Corners 7-9. Mexico had 9 corners. Croatia had 7. They were both only offside once, and Croatia had the ball 55% of the time to Mexico's 46%. I will say that watching the game, Mexico's 46% definitely looked much more effective than Croatia's 55%.
A lot of times Croatia had opportunity to run down the wing, go into the corner and cross the ball in, and they chose to pull it back out and center it in the middle and give it to Modric, and hopefully, they wanted him to make a play. They were running the offense through him, although there was chances that could have been had that they missed out on.
I did call yesterday that Mexico's midfield would shut down Modric, and
they did.
He had a great game. He made some moves, but he couldn't do it all for his team. There was 1 goal was scored by Croatia. The final was 3-1, and we'll talk about this here in a second. So the game 0-0 until the 72nd minute when a Rafa Marquez, El Capitan, scores on a header off of a corner that Chicharito had won. Chicharito had been subbed in for Giovanni Dos Santos a few minutes earlier. And at that point, Mexico's celebrating because now they've got 3 points. Draw would have put them through, but now they got 3 points. A couple minutes later, again on Chicharito making a great run, he passes the ball off, and I don't, it wasn't Peralta because it might have been Arabio Peralta or Herrera. They ground crossed it in behind Chicharito, who spins around. It looks like Chicharito wanted the ball, but he spun around, and Guardado's there, and he left foots it in across his body into the goal, makes it 2-0 Mexico. So now Mexico's really celebrating. At what point their coach gets knocked over and is rolling around like a pig in the mud.
Ochoa actually ran over from his goal onto the sideline to hug the coach.
Yeah.
Wasted a hell of a lot of time.
Wasted a lot of time. And then the interesting part came 7 minutes later when Chicharito finally got a goal on an easy tap in.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, it's 3-0. And the other game is 3-1 at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And at this minute, Mexico only needed one more goal, and they would have won the group on goal difference, which was very shocking to me. Very shocking.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was possible until the announcer said it.
Yeah,
and when the announcer said it, even though we had the little bet from yesterday that if Ochoa had a clean sheet again, that I would never choose against Mexico for the rest of the cup. 87th minute, Perisic put one by Ochoa, which saved my butt. And I mean, at that point, I was like, all right, Mexico, or before that happened, I was like, Mexico needs to score. Mexico needs to score. I didn't care about the clean sheet anymore.
Yeah.
I just wanted Mexico to win the group, so Brazil plays the Netherlands.
And by the time Perisic scores, Brazil goes up 4-1.
Yeah, it was really funny because as soon as you said, man, I hope Mexico scores, the highlight came up. And it was like 4-1. I'm 4-1. Like,
it's like, yeah, now Mexico need to score twice. They had some chances, but Croatia then started putting bodies forward. They had a few chances. Late in the game, after Perisic scored, their substitute, the striker, he had a bad foul already where he just shoulder rubbed the other guy. Didn't get a yellow card for it, but then in his next tackle, came in with his boot up, clipped Pena on the leg, and was given a straight red card.
I think it was.
The only good thing is
it was weird.
That foul, that red card, although it doesn't matter for the World Cup because Croatia has been eliminated.
Yeah.
Is that in Euros? That's a FIFA sanctioned event. That player will have to serve a 3-game suspension because it was a straight red.
Well, that sucks. I mean, he's just a sub. He's not the greatest player in Croatia, but that still sucks because they're a man down. Let's get back earlier in the game when I forgot who shot the ball, but it was a corner, and somebody pushed over Chicharito.
Yep, pushed over Chicharito. That should have been a penalty.
And then on the deflection that came off.
No, Chicharito was pushed over and went over his head.
Missed him completely. I don't know who got it. Herrera, Guardado. He shot it on goal, and the defender had his arms out and turned around, and the ball hit him in basically the forearms.
And the arms are on the side. He's basically stopping it like this.
Oh, yeah.
Should have been a handball. And
the ref's on the other side, so when he turned, he couldn't see it.
Yeah, and another bad call for Mexico.
But look, there's an assistant official on the sideline over there that could have called that.
Yeah.
And that's just another, this whole World Cup has just been bad call after bad call after bad call. Especially for Mexico. I'll give you that. They got kind of screwed, but they're still winning games. What are you going to do?
Yeah, that's right. And shouts to Mexico. They went 2 wins, 1 draw in their 3 games. The final puts Mexico in 2nd place, Brazil in 1st place.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the matchups. You will see Brazil versus Chile, and this is going to be Sunday. Brazil versus Chile, and Mexico versus the Netherlands. So we won't predict any games until we get close to them, but this definitely sets up interesting 2 matchups. One, because Mexico is definitely going to face their toughest test that they've had. They did great against Brazil, but now you have an informed Netherlands team who's scoring goals. They scored a lot of goals. They scored a total of, I believe, 10 goals in the World Cup. They scored 5 in the first one, 3 in the second one, and 2 in this last game.
Before we go into that, I just want to stop and get completely off the subject because 99% of the time when people text me, it's a sports question.
Okay.
I just got this text from our good buddy Eric Dandridge. And I don't know the answer to it. The question is, can a female play Major League Baseball?
If she was drafted, I believe so.
I'm not sure that there's any rule that a woman cannot play Major League Baseball, even though we haven't seen it yet. Just because they're more geared towards softball.
Yeah.
But
I don't
I
know.
don't know.
I don't know.
That's a good
That's
question.
a good question.
If anybody knows it, leave a comment under the page and give me the answer.
Please cite the rule in
Yes,
the MLB
cite the
rule
rule.
book for us.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be great. And if we do see a female play baseball, good
More
for
power
her.
to her,
More
man.
power for her.
That's awesome. Especially if
Um,
she's not a pitcher. You know what I'm saying? If she can actually hit the ball,
and field.
yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. So like we said, the intriguing matchup is Mexico Netherlands, which would be a great game. Also, Chile Brazil Canemball. Chile beat Brazil in both their friendlies that they played.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, Brazil didn't have anything to worry about because they're automatically qualified for the World Cup. But that's a Canemball matchup, so these two teams are familiar with each other.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a very interesting game when we talk about the knockout stages, which Tony brought up once these were happening. He said, now we can predict extra time and penalties.
Yes.
when
And
you
I'm
have
excited.
times. Yes.
I'm excited
So
for
now
that.
we'll get an extra if there's draws.
Now, are we going to go into this now? Are we going to talk about those two matchups? Are we going to
can
make
talk
our
about it a little
predictions now?
No. We'll make the predictions before the games happen.
Okay, all right.
Because it gives us more time to look over potential
Yeah,
injuries.
somebody can get a knock. Yeah,
exactly.
Definitely.
I think a big factor for Netherlands right now is the fact that Robin van Persie is going to be playing.
Yeah, huge. Because I think if he was playing in this game, the scoreline would have been a little different.
Yeah, probably. It probably would have been worse for Chile.
Yeah. Well, so you got Chile versus Brazil, Mexico versus the Netherlands coming up. We'll talk about it when we get there.
That should be Sunday. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I hope it's Sunday. It's my day off.
That should be Sunday. I may be off on my schedule. It could be Saturday. But tomorrow's games, again, here we go. We have the third round of the knockout of the group stage, producing the teams that go to the knockout. So we will have Group C and Group D playing each other.
Yeah, I just changed it.
So Group C will play the later rounds, and Group D will play the earlier rounds. And the early rounds at 9 a.m., and this is not 12 p.m., this is 1 p.m. I'm sorry about that. Costa Rica will play Italy. Costa Rica will play England. They already beat Italy. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I do know is that England has named 9 changes to the starting lineup. Only Tim Cahill and Daniel Sturridge are going to keep their spots. That means no Joe Hart, no Wayne Rooney, no Steven Gerrard, no Jagielka, no Leighton Baines, no Danny Welbeck, no Raheem Sterling, no Jordan Henderson.
So basically, they're doing what they should have done a long time ago.
Yeah.
Well, except for I think like the Joe Hart thing and the Sterling thing, they should have stayed in.
I don't know about Joe Hart.
Maybe Rooney too, but
no, I don't know about Rooney either.
Yeah, Rooney too.
No,
either way, obviously Ricky Lambert's going to get a start here.
I can tell you the lineup right now. I can tell you. You're going to have Luke Shaw.
That would be nice.
Kyle Walker.
That's
two backers.
That's fantastic.
Okay? You're going to have Cahill in the middle, and you're going to have probably Phil Jones next to him. Okay. Your midfield is probably going to be Wilshire, Lallana, Barkley. You're probably going to see, so that's 3, 4, that's 7, plus John Ruddy, who's the goalie. Okay, that makes 8. You're probably going to see Oxlade-Chamberlain, Ricky Lambert,
and Daniel Sturridge. I still don't think it's a winning team.
I'll tell you what, if they do win, it's going to make some interesting talk for the England newspapers.
Yeah, well,
that's for sure.
You know, Roy Hodgson now has the balls to change a lineup when nothing really counts.
We could see Frank Lampard playing.
That'd be nice.
Center defensive mid. I forgot about that.
That's
because
fine.
Gerrard not being there, you might want a veteran presence in the
as far as I'm concerned, Costa Rica is going to keep their same players. They might sub the better players out later in the game just to keep them healthy.
Score watching. They'll be watching the Uruguay-Italy game.
Definitely.
Knowing if they're automatically first place or not.
And me, Costa Rica was my sleeper that I called a long time ago, and I've been picking against them in the first 2 games, but I'm not picking against them this time.
Which means they're going to lose.
Yeah, probably. My name's Eddie Mush, by the way.
Yeah.
I got Costa Rica winning the game 2-1. Originally, I had a 1-1 draw, but I just can't pick against Costa Rica right now.
I've got a 2-0 England victory. Okay. I've got Ricky Lambert scoring, and I've got Ross Barkley scoring.
I'm going to have Mr. Arsenal scoring a goal, and Brian Ruiz is the second one, just because those are the only goal scorers on Costa Rica.
Joel Campbell definitely was good. So the reason why I picked the 2-0 victory is because the team that's in first place, if England beats them 2-0, it's definitely going to put some pressure on Roy Hodgson for saying, look, this younger team, more energy.
Yeah.
They don't lack the experience. And I could say Barkley may not score, and that Frank Lampard, if he does play, could score a penalty.
He's the king of penalties.
He's the king of penalties.
If there is a penalty, he's taking it.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
If he's in the game.
Yeah.
If he's not in the game, the penalty taker would most likely be
Ricky Lambert.
No.
Why not?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Who?
No. It'd probably Adam Lallana.
No. No. If Lambert takes the penalties for Southampton over Lallana, he's going to take them for England over Lallana.
That's up to Roy Hodgson.
I'm just saying that he's a better penalty taker. We'll see.
Alrighty, so the next game at same time at 9 a.m. is the potential second place decider, or one of these teams could sneak in with a victory to first place if Costa Rica does lose on goal diff.
Yep.
The Uruguay-Italy game. Italy pretty much played for a draw, and it come to bite them in the butt against Costa Rica. They lost 1-0. Now they're fighting for second place with 3 points. Uruguay's got 3 points after beating England. A draw would be interesting because of the goal diff.
Which would put Italy
through. That's right. Uruguay needs a win to advance.
Yep. We're in the same situation that we saw earlier with Croatia and Mexico.
Yes.
For Italy being Mexico. A draw puts Italy through, or a win puts Italy through. Only a win puts Uruguay through.
That's right.
If Italy does win and Costa Rica loses, well, relatively big, you could see Italy jump Costa Rica. I'm calling a 2-1 Italy victory. I think both goals are scored by Balotelli.
Okay.
I know that you have Luis Suarez on your thing here. So
I've got a 3-1 Uruguay victory. I've got 2 goals by Luis Suarez, giving him 4, tying Neymar. And, well, I'm going to say Edison Cavani gets put on the score sheet.
About time.
And it's going to be 2-1 on Luis Suarez goals, and Edison Cavani will put the sealer away in the 85th minute or higher.
Do they have
Maxi Pereira?
Yeah.
No, Maxi Pereira is not going to be playing in the game because of the double yellow thing.
I thought that was last game suspension.
No, he only got one yellow card in the first game.
Okay, there you go. He's not there. All right. So the 12 p.m. games, one that kind of doesn't matter.
1 p.m. game.
Oh, it's 1 p.m.
It's 1 p.m. I'm sorry. It was my bad.
They're changed now.
Yeah.
Greece and Ivory Coast.
Okay, so hold on. Before we go to Greece and Ivory Coast, let's talk about Japan and Colombia, because Colombia is pretty much guaranteed their spot. They may not be first place guaranteed, but they're guaranteed to advance, right?
Yeah.
So I've got Colombia sitting back, taking a lead, and then sitting back, and Japan fighting, because Japan, a victory for Japan could put them through depending on the results of the other game. So I've got it a 2-2 draw. I think that Colombia takes a 1-0 lead, then they sit back. Japan comes up and gets 2 goals, and then Colombia kills Japan's hopes with a late goal, probably Jay Rodriguez. So I've got a 2-2 draw in that game, just because I think Colombia knows that they're through, so they're going to kind of do the smart ball. They're going to rest players. They might play for 45 minutes, or they might play for 60 minutes.
So you're basically saying that another heartbreaking
loss or draw for Japan. Yes. My dark horse, unfortunately, their storyline will be heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak.
I don't even think they get heartbreak. I think they get a whooping. I think it's 3-0 Colombia, just because Colombia's been playing so well. And Japan, I mean, we've seen a lot of upsets and things happen in this World Cup, but Colombia looks awesome. So
okay, so let's talk about the Greece Ivory Coast. The reason why I want to talk about Japan and Colombia first is because I think with the draw, that 7 points puts Colombia first place regardless. I've got Greece winning 1-0 and advancing to the knockout stages with 4 points over Ivory Coast, who only has 3.
There's no way. With the way that Greece has played, I have no hope for them whatsoever in this game. I got it 2-0. And I think Drogba comes in a little earlier than the 80th minute.
I'm telling you, Ivory Coast has a history of disappointing in the World Cup, and it's going
Greece
to
has
happen.
a history of not doing anything in the World Cup.
I'm just saying it's going to happen.
So
disappointment
Ivory Coast,
for Ivory Coast.
Smarter management, put Drogba in earlier. Gervinho scores. Drogba scores.
If Gervinho scores, that puts Gervinho up with 3 up in the Golden Boot races. I want to see Ivory Coast advance. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Okay, but because of their history...
We both love Didier Drogba.
Yeah, because I love him more. I wanted to name my son Didier.
Okay.
So, but that didn't happen. I do want to see Ivory Coast win, but because of their history of failure, I believe that a 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss would never be good enough, and a 1-win, 2-loss is what I believe is going to happen to them, is going to fail them. So, they draw or win, they're pretty much in, because Japan would have to beat Colombia, which, I don't think Japan has the attacking options to do it. Now, they could come out and go balls to the walls, but,
the counter.
The counter.
Yeah, I mean, once you start throwing people forward, you leave your entire back line hanging out to dry.
Yes.
And against a team like Colombia, nah, no way.
So the matchups Tony and I are predicting, which would be your Group B, Group C matchups, you would see a Costa Rica versus Ivory Coast in the knockout stage, and you would see a Colombia versus Italy for Tony. Okay. The matchups I have,
Colombia versus Uruguay.
I would see Colombia versus Uruguay and Costa Rica versus Greece.
Either way, I see Costa Rica going through. I don't care if they play Ivory Coast, and I don't care if they play Greece. Costa Rica's winning that knockout
So with
game.
the USA draw, just so we can be clear, the CONCACAF record, okay, and we know Honduras is going to put another black eye on it, okay?
Yeah.
But right now as it stands, we've got 4 victories, 2 draws, 2 losses. Those 2 losses, Honduras. So we could say, take away Honduras, you got 4 victories, 2 draws. Okay? Costa Rica will play tomorrow. If they get another victory, we equal the highest CONCACAF total of victories in a World Cup with 5.
Mm-hmm.
If they draw or lose, then it'll blemish the record a little more. But CONCACAF teams, besides Honduras, are playing really well. Mexico just got, actually, it's more than 4 victories. Mm-hmm. It's 5 victories already. Because we got 2 for Costa Rica, 2 for Mexico, and one for the United States. So it is 5 already. I'm sorry. So Costa Rica wins tomorrow, we break the record. That's my bad. I forgot Mexico won today.
Yeah, and Costa Rica is not only going to win, but they're going to win their next game.
If they play Ivory Coast, that would be a great matchup.
It's going to be a good matchup against Ivory Coast. I think, it just says a lot for CONCACAF and the way we're growing as a football.
What about this? This is something that I just thought about. So Colombia hasn't guaranteed their first place spot. Let's say they did lose to Japan. Okay, we got to go over the scenarios. They do lose to Japan. Okay, but Ivory Coast wins, automatically knocking out Japan, right? Because Japan could only have 4 points.
Okay.
Let's say Ivory Coast murders Greece because it's Greece, right?
You're saying
Ivory Coast goes to first place.
Okay, you're saying Colombia can play Costa Rica.
You could see Colombia, Costa Rica,
In
Ivory
which case
Coast, Uruguay.
Take off my sleeper.
Okay, Ivory Coast, Uruguay would be a very intriguing matchup. Ivory Coast, Italy would be a very intriguing matchup.
I think the Ivory Coast, Uruguay would be the most exciting game because they're both completely offensive teams. They don't have much defense going on over there, so I think you see a high score in that one.
Yeah, I just want to see Uruguay advance so Luis Suarez can keep going. Suarez, the biter.
I'm Luis Suarez. I'm the Luis Suarez hater, Tony Gaglione.
El Chumper. The Senor Jaws.
I'm on Luis Suarez's nuts, Sean Adams.
I'm Sean Adams. This is the Luis Suarez hater. Tony Gaglione.
Hey, Luis Suarez, bite me.
Yeah. It's okay because he's on Rotten Memphis. That's true.